So Donald Trump and his people are absolutely panicking today. And this is regards to jobs and inflation. I want to give you guys the latest, and let's jump right in. So these are the headlines. BLS Axe's October CPI report sets December 18th for November data. So why is this important? So first, the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they'll put out jobs and inflation number, right, officially from the government. Then the Fed will use these numbers to then set monetary policy. Are we cutting rates? Are we raising rates? Are we holding pat? And this date that they're saying, December 18th, comes after the Fed meeting, meaning that going into the next meeting, which is, I think, December 9th and 10th, the Fed won't have official numbers from October, right? No official inflation data, no official job numbers from the government. And so my opinion is they'll probably stand pat. And the market's watching this thing. There's still a bet that they're going to cut. I think it's like a 40% chance the market's betting on, but we'll see. And you'll hear different things what the Fed is saying. Also with this no October report, again, on jobs and inflation, then it's hard to calculate November numbers because you won't know rate of change. You're missing a month of data. This is also the headlines today then. Fed won't get key inflation data before next rate decision as BLS cancels October CPI release. So again, no inflation data from the government. This is what Jerome Powell said recently. Quote, "This is a temporary state of affairs, okay? And we're going to do our jobs. We're going to collect every scrap of data we can find, evaluate it, and think carefully about it. Okay? What do you do if you're driving in the fog? You slow down. There's a possibility that it would make sense to be more cautious about moving." So, we'll see what they end up being because it's not just Jerome Powell making the decision. There are others over at the Fed, and we're going to find out December 9th and 10th. Again, we don't have complete numbers though. And before Donald Trump announced a head of the BLS pick, ended up withdrawing because the person was completely incompetent. And if you don't know, he fired the last BLS head because he didn't like the jobs numbers. Now, I was curious because they said they were going to announce someone, but now just Google it quickly, but I haven't seen anything. I guess at the moment, we have someone who's an acting commissioner is what they call it. And I actually went over to the BLS website because I haven't looked for a while, and it literally says right there. So some dude there, Wyatrowski, acting commissioner. And then something else that really stood out over at the BLS is there's a lot of vacancies. I'm just showing you a few pages here on the first page here, or first part, I could say. There's a couple vacancies. So for example, Commissioner of Compensation and Working Conditions, that appears to be vacant. Commissioner for Occupational Safety and Health Statistics, that appears to be vacant. Here's more. Commissioner for Industry Employee Statistics, vacant. Commissioner for Occupational Statistics and Employment Projections, vacant. Senior Research Economist, Employment Research Staff, vacant. And you can see right here, right? Industrial Prices and Price Indexes, vacant. And here's another one. Senior Research Economist, Division of Productivity Research and Program Development, again, vacant. And the list goes on. It's actually a longer list than this. I'm just showing you some of this stuff. And it matters because I want to know what's going on. And I think this is a reasonable things that you do. And these kind of jobs, they shouldn't be partisan whatsoever. You just hire someone who can calculate the numbers, and it serves all of us to know where we are as an economy, be it inflation, be it employment, et cetera. Like this should all benefit all of us. And so then what's happening right now is because in my opinion, I think things are actually way south, like meaning really bad compared to what the government is officially saying. I think the Trump people are going to try to delay this as much as possible by maybe not hiring anyone and just, trying to evade. Because if you look at sort of the recent polling data of Trump, people realize that like things are bad and that they're pointing at him basically. So for example, this was something that just came out today. Pollster, the numbers for Trump's approval ratings are just atrocious. The AP poll has him at 26 points underwater. His net approval rating with independents, 43 points underwater. And it's ugly for them, right? And I was looking at this also. This is Reuters Ipsos recent poll has only a 38% approval rating for Trump. So again, not great. And how do you get out of these like basically underwater numbers with both independents, which is way underwater, and then Americans as a whole? So the Trump and their people's strategy is basically to appeal to racism. That's basically what it is. Seriously, This is what they have pinned on their social media. It's one of their White House accounts. They say here, over the past year, 2.5 million native-born Americans gained employment, right? 670,000 foreign-born workers lost employment. And then they're talking about native-born Americans joined the labor force and foreign-born workers left the labor force. And basically, they're trying to appeal to like, hey, we love native-born people, and all those foreigners, get out. If you don't know, I was born in Vietnam. I'm a U.S. citizen, and I became naturalized when I was a kid. I actually did not choose to go to the USA. The American military flew me to the USA. It's a long story. It's at the end of the Vietnam War. I write about it in my book. And, this kind of rhetoric, I can get angry, kick and scream. It just exposes the Trump people as being frankly racist. Is another way to put it. And also, if they're going to talk in this kind of way, so then shouldn't we kick out Elon Musk or kick out Melania Trump because they're not American born, they're not native born, right? Is that the kind of discussion we want to have? And I get it. In the Trumpy world, they don't think that kind of way. They just think, well, Chris, you just don't understand. Elon Musk and Melania are white and they're rich, so we like those people. I don't know what to say other than I'm just pointing out that's what Trump's trying to do to get himself out of water, out of being underwater. And what is going on in the economy? I mean, you actually see it in the headlines here. This is just today. Tyson to close one of the biggest beef processing plants in the U.S. So I guess a bunch of people are going to lose their jobs over at Tyson. That'd be, was it the chicken? And I guess they do beef, so they must do, multiple meats here. And I'll just read a little bit of this. Tyson Foods, America's largest meat supplier, is planning to close one of its largest beef processing plants in Nebraska in a time when cattle shortage in the U.S. squeezes meatpacking companies. And it says here, Lexington, Nebraska plant employs roughly 3,000 people and can slaughter 5,000 cattle a day. So I guess if they're going to close this plant, those people are out of luck. I mean, you can see the thing right here. And this is on top of, because I want to show you there's different parts of the economy. This is coming out today also, Amazon. Amazon cut more than 1,800 engineers and record layoffs despite saying it needs to innovate faster. And you're looking at here, I guess it'll be in their video game, advertising, and AI search or whatever. And this will be, what is this? Nearly 40% of the roughly 4,700 positions eliminated across Washington, New York, New Jersey, and California were engineering jobs. When you get this kind of stuff, I mean, it's not good. Plus, costs are high. Trump is, underwater in the polls. And then you look at sort of what Fox News is promoting today, and I'll show you guys. This is from Fox News just a few hours ago. I mentioned in the last video. I want to mention it again because it matters. Was what it says. NVIDIA brings AI robots and voice assistants to hospitals to tackle healthcare worker shortage, right? Fox Business. And so what they've been promoting over there, but with the White House and all the Republicans is like, guys, the best way to innovate when you're all losing your jobs is to bring in more AI and robots, right? I mean, that's seriously what they're talking about here. And what's sad is that the MAGA base are just frankly too foolish to understand what's going on here. And I'll make it really clear, okay? People are losing their jobs for a variety of reasons, but one you could say is automation. And instead of blaming automation or looking at your boss and saying, why are you firing me for robots? They want you to look at, basically foreign-born or black and brown people and say, oh, it's all their fault, right? It's not the machines that are replacing you at the factories. That's what they want you to think. They want to say, no. It's all these black and brown people are taking your jobs. And yet the same token, like they're literally promoting this kind of stuff, right? And this is interesting because the same day that Fox News is promoting NVIDIA to replace all the healthcare workers with robots and AI, and Elon Musk does the same thing. Elon Musk, and I've showed you several times on the channel, he'll say, I'm going to eliminate poverty by making, robots all the healthcare workers or whatever. Like he really talks about it. He actually says that stuff. And so this combines with the Trump policy. Look at this. This came out today. Outrage over Trump's bill reclassifying nursing as not a professional degree for college students. Okay. So the same day that Fox News is telling you, hey guys, look how awesome it is. We're going to have a bunch of AI and robot, healthcare workers. Then they're changing the way they classify, say, nurses. Now, why does this matter? Because it'll be harder for people to get funding to go to nursing school, right? Or it'll be harder for people to, for example, if the government wanted to, just for example, if the government wanted to, they could say, hey, nursing is vital to national security, something like that. And then if you, work in a high need area or high need hospital, we'll forgive your loans. They could totally do that, right? But if you start to reclassify them as, well, nurses aren't really, professionals, and nurses aren't that important. We don't care about those people, basically what it boils down to. And then they start pushing robots and AI. Anyone with reasonable intelligence should be able to figure this stuff out. I always say it that way. I know, but mean this way, but it's so obvious. It's like obvious what they're doing. That they say it publicly. It's all in the headlines. This is Fox News promoting it. And yet, the way they fool people all the time is like, well, you need to blame people south of the border. and it's so obviously racist, but people get upset when you point out the truth of this stuff. And I'm just literally showing you what Fox News is pointing out and what the Trump people are doing. And it's interesting too, because they'll acknowledge it in different ways that, the rise of AI and robots is real, right? So for example, this is in Bloomberg today, and I guess our military is now practicing shooting down drones because that is the future. I'm not denying that, automation's real. I'm not denying that. I'm just telling you like what's going on. Like, look, seize drones to be used for U.S. Special Ops shooting practice. U.S. military is trying shotguns as last ditch defense against drone attacks. I just find it funny, but it is practical. I'm not disagreeing. Like, if it turns out that everyone's going to be using drones in the future, yes, learn how to shoot these things down. But that is sort of what we're talking about. And what's end up going to be happening, and I don't know how soon we're going to get there or whatever, is Elon Musk. I mean, he's trying to profit off this stuff. He's like, okay, if we're all going to drones, then I'm going to tell everyone, hey guys, I make robots and humanoid robots and whatever, and flying cars. I'm sure he'll start doing that eventually. Start telling people, not actually doing it, but telling people he's going to do these things. And then he'll start talking to the military. Hey, what if we don't have any humans in the military at all? And think how much better it would be just to have a bunch of robots, right? And like the humans in USA are like, wait, and I'm not saying everyone to go out and join the military, but the humans would be like, hey, well, don't I get a job? Like, what's my purpose in society? And this is, goes back to understanding, like, the Trump plan is not human focused, right? Like, it's this kind of stuff. And so it's ironic though, at the same time that we're pushing, robots and AI, we're also learning how to shoot down robots and AI. And so I guess the competition is going to be which country can put out the best drones. And I mean, for real, I think that is going to be a real thing, or which country can hack the other people's drones or whatever. And then you got this kind of stuff, which shows you how Trump's whole game plan is so incohesive all the time. They'll say one thing, they'll do another thing, right? These kind of things. Or if something that is politically, what's the word to say, like I could say damaging to them, or goes against stuff they say in public, they'll try to keep it on the down low, on the DL. So for example, this just came out today from Bloomberg. Trump team internally floats idea of selling NVIDIA H200 chips to China. And all along, publicly, Trump always says, we're going to beat China in crypto, we're going to beat China in AI. Like he said that, that's in all his speeches, and he'll go on and on about that. And so this has been a really sensitive topic because, in some situations, Chinese companies would like to buy these NVIDIA chips. And theoretically, the U.S., may not sell them to them and put, export controls on that. If you're NVIDIA, obviously you want to sell chips to everywhere around the world and make as much money as you possibly can. And then the Trump people will say, and it gets complicated, but they'll make the case like, hey, we got to make sure that the chips aren't used for military purposes in China, which I totally understand, completely understand. I want to make that clear. I completely understand these kind of things, right? So if you're going to say that publicly, that we don't want China to use this for military applications or get ahead of us, don't then start internally talking about, hey, how can we sell chips to China? But that's what they're doing. That's why this is kind of damaging story for them. But they won't talk about this stuff on Fox News, trust me. But it does come out. And, when you check on what the Americans are up to these days, like, again, it's all this talk about basically who's going to replace humans faster and how many data centers are we going to have, et cetera. These are the headlines that you get, say, in the financial news. Americans' happiness is at a record low, or are we just using our money the wrong way? And I see this stuff over and over again, like various situations that people are having, problems with money. Like you see it in the news. And let me read a description of this one, because I think this is a really fascinating one. This is what it says. It says, Kara McSound, quote, cried every day after buying a 5,000 square foot house in Brooklyn. And this thing would be really expensive. 5,000 square foot house in Brooklyn would be really expensive. And those of you who live in Brooklyn, you'll know this. Brooklyn's not cheap these days. She had done well financially as a Wall Street trader, so definitely got money. And raising her family in a large home had been a dream, okay? But cleaning a house that size was a massive undertaking, and it seemed impossible to keep track of everyone's belongings as compared with when they lived in a smaller duplex. Okay. And sort of what we're getting at here is like having a big home and stuff like that doesn't necessarily mean happiness. Like it's important to talk about these things, have real discussions about it, because part of what they try to get you to do in your state is only think about you got to have the biggest house possible and 10 cars and 25 TVs and buy a new phone every year. You get my point. Just like you got to keep spending. And this person's starting to question this, right? Now I got this big house, I can't even clean the dang thing. It's too big. I was happier when I was in the small duplex. Kind of funny. One day, her mother came over and noted the house needed window treatments. Okay. Quote, all of a sudden my time was being spent picking window treatment, she thought. This is miserable. Yes, it is rich people problems, but it's funny if you just think about the philosophy behind this stuff. Maxdown was raised to believe one's home was their pride, but she realized, quote, I'm built differently, she said. I wanted to see things, I wanted to feel things, I wanted to experience people. And you don't do that when you sit in the house on the sofa admiring your curtains. And I just thought this story's description of you could call it a rich person's life, or the endless chase of wealth, what it gets you, right? Maybe you got that big house, so I guess you just fill your house with a bunch of curtains, and then you're just gonna sit inside and just look at it all the time. And in fact, they even describe where for her actually true happiness is when she finally gets her kids outside and in the strollers and walking around and gets her cup of coffee and is able to enjoy the community, etc. And I'm putting this stuff together with the AI things and stuff like that is because, and I understand in the MAGA world or whatever, they worship Musk and Trump. And they think, oh, he's so rich, and I see him on TV, and rich people, it's so great to have money all the time. I'm not saying money's bad. I just want to make that clear. I never say money's bad, but the endless pursuit of money just to pursue more things, and then that's the sense of your pride is really what you see right here, right? You're going to end up sitting in your house alone, staring at your curtains, and you miss out on a lot of human things. And if we go into a world where we're all about pushing profits over people and get as many robots and drones and stuff as we possibly can, I guess we're going to go to our jobs and just sit and talk to a bunch of robots all day, like literal robots, not just, human workers who act like robots, but literal robots. And that's what Musk always promotes as well, is you're all going to have, 5 robot buddies and a robot girlfriend. And someone in our community made a really funny joke before, is like, you'll be telling your friends that you lost your girlfriend, and we say, oh, what happened? Did you break up? No, I just, couldn't afford to pay the subscription fee. And so if you get the joke, it's basically Trump, and Musk, they want you to subscribe to things forever so you can get your robot girlfriend subscriptions and essentially never own anything. It is a disconnect, right? So the wealth will be in their big homes, staring at their curtains, no human relations. And then I guess the rest of us will be scrounging for food and in the K-shaped economy, which I keep telling you guys about. So I know talk a lot about this stuff on this channel, but I just want to give you a broader perspective of, don't just think about like the putting out a fire each day. Think about the picture, the bigger picture as a whole, and why things are structured the way they are, and how people effectively in USA are getting manipulated. And I hopefully I illustrated it really clearly here, but we'll keep talking about this discussion every single day as you'll see it pop up in the news. So I do appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.